Hey, what's up out there? This is Rob, bringing you episode 2 of Sonic Stories, Tales of Crossroads and Catalysts. We're going to talk about a little span of possibly a year or so. Back in '91, so one particular night, I was driving home from work about 11 p.m. A long day, and I was working at a major toy retailer. It was actually called Child World, just before they were hostily taken over from within by Toys R Us, which is a story in itself. But I was coming home. It was a long day. It was strange. You know, a huge store full of toys, walking down aisles with like the Ninja Turtle aisle, and kids in the center genuflecting with this strange allegiance to I don't know what. And it was in conflict with my soul. I was working for money, but I was in conflict. And that night, I'm driving home. I remember the exact spot. I had the radio on, and on came a song. It was a call, it was a cry. It was Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. I remember it was unlike anything we had heard before even, and a tone which we hadn't heard in quite a while that said things are changing, something's happening, there is a wave and it's building. And that resonated with me. I wanted a part of that. I needed a part of that. I was going to be a part of that. I'm going to flash forward again. I had left that job, and at this time, months later, I was working for a big supermarket chain, and I was working at the local newspaper. 2 jobs. It was a nice experience working for the newspaper. It was a very interesting building. But there was one particular day, it was probably the weekend, when I wasn't at the newspaper, and I was going into work in the dairy of the supermarket. A friend of mine, friend to this day, very dear friend, helped me get that job. So I'm driving in, and I get up to this crossroads. It's like a fork in the road, and I can see the supermarket just across the street to my left. And I had every intention, my body had every intention of just driving in and proceeding with my day. And as I'm looking that way, for some reason, my body just turned right. I made a right. I was at a crossroads. It was either this way or that way. This life or that life. I went back home, and that was the end of that. It was a new beginning. So I'm going to speak about crossroads for a minute. You come to times in your life, times during your day, big things, small things, where you have a choice to go this way or that way. I sometimes say, as if to my kids, or an example from my past, you know, when some of your friends are going this way, they're going off to smoke or whatever, and then the rest are going this way to continue on with their studies and doing what they're supposed to do, and you make a choice. And if you go one way, you miss what's the other way, and vice versa. You don't really have any idea of knowing what's ahead, but you follow with faith. You follow with a confidence, maybe an apprehension, maybe with a little bit of fear, maybe with a little bit of everything. But we come to these decisions, and sometimes it seems as if the universe interferes and just takes over. And on this particular day, that's how I felt. Fate and the universe took over. I meant to go left, and I made a right. And it was very shortly after that, my wife, girlfriend at the time, was graduating from college, and she said, I'm either going to Tennessee to pick someplace. And I had been out west. I always loved the West. The West had called me since I was a preteen. Stories from my friends, older brothers, siblings, going out there visions of mountains and oceans and deserts and who knows what. Possibility, adventure, that's what. And I said, Arizona's cool. I've been there. I might have some connections. So that's what we did. We packed up 2 cars, everything we owned, and drove out to Arizona. And while I was there, I got a job working through a temporary agency actually, working at 2 different entertainment venues. One was at the time Desert Sky Blockbuster Pavilion, which is now Achin Pavilion, I believe, and Mesa Amphitheater. And over the course of those months, I worked some incredible shows and had some really cool experiences. And I was also still looking, searching, and I happened to see an ad for the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences, a recording program. And I was a musician. I had a 4-track. I was doing all this stuff, and I'm like, that's something. That's something. So I went through their program. At the time, it was a 5-month program. And at the end, in order to complete for your certificate, you need to do an internship. I said, if I'm serious, I need to go to LA. Now, I had friends in LA. I had been out there before I had moved out west. While I was living in Arizona, I took my wife, my girlfriend at the time, out and back, and she loved it. And being an RN, there's work anywhere in the world if you want to go. So we said, yep, we're making the bounce. We're going to go. So out we went to California, and I had put in applications to intern at 3 to 5 different studios. One of them happened to be Indigo Ranch in Malibu, which we'll talk about a lot in the coming videos. But we moved out to California. We had a place to move into, the beach house. And 5 days later, I went up to Indigo Ranch to meet the owner. Now, all this time, I was following dreams. I was following whatever I was following. But at this time, I drove all the way up those hills, all the way to the end of this road, into some kind of Garden of Eden, it looked like. I pulled in. I get out of the vehicle, and as I do, a man is walking towards me with long gray beard, long peppered hair, and a mohair vest. It was Richard Kaplan, the owner and operator of Indigo Ranch. And as I got out of that car and saw him smile and looked around me at this orchard and the view and the ocean 1,000 feet below, I realized this is where I was coming to. This is where I needed to be. This is where the catalysts and crossroads were leading me to. And it is here that I will leave the story to continue in another episode of Sonic Stories. Peace. Love you all. Be good. Watch for the signs. And while you are doing that, take care of yourself and take care of each other.